Okay, so this is the fourth topic of the B1 paper. Then you'll have all 4 units, and it mostly covers photosynthesis and respiration. So, with photosynthesis, very easy. Photo means light, synthesis meaning to make. So therefore, we're using light to make the food for plants, and the food is glucose. So, what do plants take in? They take in carbon dioxide through the leaves. They take in water through the roots down here, and then they join those two little molecules together using energy from the sun, using chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are the place in the cell where it happens, using the green pigment called chlorophyll for actually photosynthesis itself. So in terms of equations, you all need to know the word equation, and for higher paper, the symbol equation. Just remember 6. So it's 6 carbon dioxides, 6 waters, giving us glucose, which is C6H12O6, and giving us 6 oxygens. So make sure you can do that balanced equation. And then how do we make the rate of photosynthesis faster? So the faster the rate of photosynthesis, the better it is for us. What it means for farmers is the faster we can make this reaction happen, then the more glucose the plant will get, then therefore the more it will grow, because it can turn some of the glucose into other things that we'll cover in a minute. So how do we get that maximum rate? Well, first thing is we can increase the amount of carbon dioxide. And if you increase the amount of carbon dioxide, the rate of photosynthesis, as long as light's available, gets higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. But then it's reached its maximum rate. Something else is limiting it. So this point here would be the optimum concentration. So 0.1% of carbon dioxide, the optimum. So inside a greenhouse, you might add carbon dioxide to help photosynthesis go even faster. And then temperature, very much like us when we did the homeostasis topic recently, very much like us, because photosynthesis is controlled by enzymes, which is the biological catalyst, what we should know about them is they collide more often with the substrate, and it gets faster and faster and faster, and then something happens at a certain temperature. So it depends upon the plant. And here, for example, it's showing that the optimum temperature is about 22 degrees. We know for us it's 37. For some plants, especially in this country, the optimum temperature would be probably the 20s. Other countries might have plants where the optimum temperature is 10 degrees or 30 degrees. So that bit here, if you get too hot, the enzymes denature, they change shape, and they no longer act like a catalyst. So far, carbon dioxide, you get the optimum level. Then we get the optimum temperature, which is again why we might use a greenhouse. And then the amount of light. Light's very similar to carbon dioxide. Keep adding light and the rate gets faster and faster and faster. And here at X we reach our optimum. That's the optimum amount of light. There's no point in putting more light in here. It doesn't get any faster. The rate down the side here won't get any faster. So whichever one of those 3 things is missing is called the limiting factor down here at the bottom. So for example, on a lovely warm bright summer's day, maybe carbon dioxide is the limiting factor because it's got lots of light and it's got the right temperature. So required practical for the rate of photosynthesis. Here we have pondweed in a tube, and as it makes oxygen, you can see here at the top there's little bubbles of oxygen given off. And what you can do then is you can have an LED lamp here, and then we can change the distance. So in terms of the instructions, sodium hydrogen carbonate solution gives carbon dioxide, freshly cut pondweed, so the ends are live, an LED lamp, LED because it doesn't give off heat, so we're not affecting the heat of the reaction, otherwise we'd be changing light and heat. Move it to a distance 10 centimeters away from the boiling tube, let it go for 5 minutes, start the stopwatch, count the number of bubbles, repeat it, take the average, and then do it again, but this time do it at different distances away, and then we can investigate does the distance the light is away, how bright the light is, affect the rate of photosynthesis. Now you could do exactly the same experiment, but you could have this whole container inside a water bath. So this is full of water. And then what we could do is change the temperature of it. So we could investigate how the temperature changes. And then we could do the investigation again. And this time we could change the amount of sodium hydrogen carbonate. And instead of putting 0.2% solution, we could do 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and then we can investigate the amount of carbon dioxide. So it's a really useful experiment to demonstrate what we just talked about with what factors affect photosynthesis. So light is a limiting factor. And it's the inverse square law. Oh, it says it there, inverse square law. You double the distance between the plant and the light source, and you quarter the light intensity. So when you go from 10 centimeters to 20 centimeters away, light intensity would go down by 4 times, not just double the distance. So obviously, the brighter the light, the better. Okay, so here are palisade cells near the top of a leaf with all those chloroplasts inside them, all those tiny little green bundles. They contain chlorophyll, which catches the light. The more chlorophyll, the better. If there's a reduced amount of chlorophyll, you won't get so much glucose, you won't get so much food, and then therefore the plant won't grow as well. So if you think about infection and response, we had tobacco mosaic virus, and then there was also a fungus, the rose black spot. Those two eat away at the chlorophyll on the leaf, therefore they don't grow as well. Okay, these sort of graphs here they're showing the rate of photosynthesis on one side, and here they're showing the carbon dioxide concentration going up. And this one, Y, is at a high light intensity, brighter, and this one's at a low light intensity. So these sort of experiments can be used to show what the limiting factor is. So for example, as you increase carbon dioxide along the bottom here, it gets faster and faster and faster, and then it levels off, it can't go any faster. And exactly the same for Y, but it goes up quicker because more light is available, so it's a faster rate of photosynthesis. Okay, exactly the same idea here. We've got the different temperatures, etc. So here, light intensity is increasing along the bottom. Which one works best? Here at the top, this line here at the top, it's got a nice warm temperature, 25 degrees, and it's got 0.1% carbon dioxide. This one here, that's colder, and both of these down here have much less carbon dioxide. So it's a combination of those different factors. It's not just the light, it's not the carbon dioxide, it's not the temperature, it's all three. So here we go, up the top here, where the conditions are best is a nice warm temperature, lots of carbon dioxide, and a high light intensity. So how do we use this? Heating in greenhouses, artificial lights, they can be on overnight, they can be on cloudy days, and extra carbon dioxide can be pumped into greenhouses. That means we can grow the plants much faster than they would do just outside on a farm. And then, as I said a few minutes ago, what do we do with the glucose? So, some of the glucose is used for energy. However, some of it is stored away in fat or oil in seeds. Next thing, this is where it's stored away as starch. So plants will store glucose as starch. They will store it as food, as oils and fats in seeds. They also use glucose to make cellulose cell walls. And the fourth most important thing, I presume, the one you're most likely to be asked about, they can convert it into amino acids. So plants can actually turn the glucose they make into amino acids. Amino acids can be turned to protein, and protein is what you need for growth. The only thing with that is, and this is essential, the plants must get this nitrate oil, the nitrate ion, from the soil. Without the nitrate ions, they can't make the amino acids. Okay, so as before, I'm just going to flick through these, but you can pause on any questions and then pause on the answers as well. Okay, hopefully you did okay with those, the questions and the answers, if you worked your way through them, as hopefully you will have done to test your understanding. If not, you can always go back and do it because you can pause. Right, respiration. Respiration is exothermic. That means it's giving out energy, whereas photosynthesis was endothermic. It's a very similar reaction, it's the opposite way around. And respiration is the release of energy inside cells. Why do living organisms need respiration? Why do we need the energy we get from our glucose? Well, for us, keeping warm uses a big amount of our energy. Fish and reptiles, etc., don't need to stay warm, so they don't need to eat as much. You'll know, for example, that some snakes eat every few months, etc. That's because they don't need energy for keeping themselves warm, and they don't move very much either. So an animal like us that needs to keep its body warm and we move around a lot, if you grow quickly to make new molecules, you'll need lots of energy. So all these things are why we need glucose for all our reactions in our body. And then the equation is the opposite of photosynthesis. So this time round, and again it's the sixes, we're taking oxygen and glucose and we're turning it into carbon dioxide and water. But the important thing here is this is aerobic respiration. Aerobic, like aerobics, the exercise, you can do it for a long time. It's with oxygen and it happens inside mitochondria, inside cells. The more mitochondria you've got, the more respiration you can do. The faster you can get oxygen to the cells, the more respiration you can do. So, what happens with anaerobic when you haven't got enough oxygen? It means that you're not getting enough oxygen to it. You can quickly get a bit of energy, but what happens is you build up a poisonous substance called lactic acid. And lactic acid can make your muscles hurt and cause them to be sore the next day. So after exercise, you have to get rid of the lactic acid, and the amount of oxygen we owe our body is called the oxygen debt. So that's why it's always recommended that you warm down after an exercise, because you can quickly get rid of the lactic acid and prevent muscle soreness the next day. And anaerobic respiration, not in us, but in yeast cells, they make alcohol. And we cover this in revision in class. They make alcohol when they respire anaerobically, and therefore we use yeast to make alcohol. We also use the carbon dioxide part here, because when they make carbon dioxide, it makes bread rise. So yeast is a really important microorganism used in the production of alcohol and in bread. Fermentation is the name of that reaction, where it's turning glucose into ethanol and carbon dioxide. So we ferment fruits, for example, to make wines. We ferment barley to make beer. So there's a quick table in summary. Oxygen is required for the aerobic. Products are carbon dioxide and water. It completely gets rid of the glucose, and we get a lot of energy. However, from these two, we get a low amount of energy from the anaerobic. So, how does our body respond when we do more exercise? Well, because we need more energy, we need to make sure that we get enough oxygen so that we avoid the anaerobic. So the heart rate increases. That means you're pumping blood with oxygen in it around your body quicker, and then your breathing rate and your breathing volume increases, and that means you can get more oxygen into your blood. Okay, lactic acid builds up during exercise. Blood flows through the muscle, takes the lactic acid to the liver, and the liver can get rid of the lactic acid and turn it back to glucose. So, metabolic rate or metabolism. Your metabolism is all of the reactions in your body. So, using energy for those reactions. If you have a high metabolism, you use lots of energy. If you have a low metabolism, you use a low amount of energy. These are some examples of metabolic reactions, so reactions that happen inside your body, inside cells. In plants, converting glucose into cellulose. In animals, converting glucose to glycogen for our storage. Turning glucose into fats. Breaking down proteins to use for energy as well, especially when we're short of sugar. Okay, so I'll flick through these. You go through them at whatever rate you want and then mark your answers if that's how you do it.